Welcome back, happy people. So today we're going to do a video just hanging out with Grandpa in the shop. He is a seasoned stick welder of 40 years and has worked on barges and tugboats all his life up until he retired. I believe he said that he worked from 55 through '02, if I recall correctly. Don't quote me on that. But today we're going to be hanging out with him, listening to stories, and burning some rod while we do it. So hopefully I can learn something, hopefully you guys can learn something, and just have a good time. Let's get started.
You know what's different?
What's that?
You know what's different?
What?
I got my hearing aids in.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that last time. I remember you saying you couldn't weld when you can hear.
I don't weld at home with my hearing aids in. See, I'm not used to having these in when I'm welding. That makes it sound different. See, I don't notice that frying egg, frying skillet. I don't notice it without my hearing aids. Well, then I think it's too hot, you see. Too hot
okay, that makes sense.
or got the polarity wrong, you see.
That makes sense.
He couldn't ask for anything any better.
It melts pretty good.
I take that back. A DC welder, a straight DC welder will give you a smoother burn.
What is this considered then? Isn't this DC? I think this is straight DC.
No. It might be DC, but what I'm saying is a DC welder, like a generator type welder, will give you a smoother arc, less splatter, smoother arc, you see.
Okay.
When you go to AC, like if you got a generator, you got DC, you got AC. AC is just the same, but when you have the DC generator, or say like difference between the AC welder here, and a straight AC welder, you're gonna be basically same on AC. But when you go to DC, a DC generator will give you a smoother arc than what a box like this with DC.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's always been that way. The problem is, one of the problems this solves is if you're welding with 7018 and you're getting some thin material. Say you're running rut pass that's V'd out.
Okay.
With a DC generator welder, you'll burn through that metal.
Okay.
With the AC generator, you won't burn through it. You'll get right there and got it. So when you start welding, if you're welding on the side of the boat or something, you've got just two plates coming together. The AC box like this on the DC is you'll go up that crack, your rut pass, if you're not V'ing it out. So you got 1/4 inch plate, you're not going to V quarter, you might just break the edge with a grinder, but you're welding up because you're going to go on the other side and you're going to scarf it out to your weld and then you're going to go over again. Okay. But the DC generator type of welder will give you more bite and you have more tendency to go through it than you will with a DC on a box like this, you see. So I've always really preferred this, a box DC over the generator
unless
DC.
You're welding really thick stuff.
Because of that reason, you see, That's beautiful. I don't know if I could anymore. I used to weld like that all day. As you get older, you tend to want to go a little bit faster, and it's things don't go fast enough for you. You want to get one thing done and go to something else. That's pretty.
There we go. Almost looks like you know what you're doing. Almost looks like you know what you're doing.
Like I've done it before?
Like you've done it before. Only for like 30 years, right?
Huh?
Only for 30 years, right? Probably longer than that, actually.
Well, I started in 61 at Seraphin's and I retired in '02. So that's 41 years.
41 years. I'd say you got some experience under your belt.
You know, when I was foreman down there was a lot of... I was a working foreman. In other words, I worked part of the time and part time I welded. And then some of the time on some of the technical stuff on the boats where you had to be right, well, I just did it just automatically.
So you know it'd get done right?
Pardon?
So you know it'd get done right?
Yeah, yeah. That's nice. That's nice. See, there isn't a whole lot of cleanup in that. If you don't get a splatter, and you know, like that guy last night who had that big rod.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cleanup in that. You see.
Yes.
You have a okay. Okay, that was 7017. Okay, this is 6011.
Okay.
Okay. The 6011 is gonna ooh. This is old rod. See the flex breaking off?
It looks like it's chipping off more.
Pardon?
It looks like the flux was kind of falling off.
It is. It is. Let's have to say it's old rod.
Oh, okay.
Probably been wet and dry. With the 611, you're gonna get more cleanup. You know what I'm saying?
No,
it's
what
gonna
cleanup?
More cleanup. Well, it's not as smooth as well, so you get more splatters. You see?
Oh, you need more cleanup afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know, if you want it to pretty. No. 6011 is hard to make pretty. I don't care what you do.
Okay.
It's hard to make pretty. It's a quick, efficient 60,000 pound rod, you know, on 36,000 pound mild steel. So it doesn't have the ductility, it doesn't bend as much, but it's just quick
Okay.
to get it up, you know.
You can lay it down faster, is that what you mean? Or?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you're working, say you put a new chunk in the side of a boat, you don't always use 7018. A lot of times you use 60. You use 6011.
Okay.
Okay. You'll go up 6011 and run a wash path up probably and probably 2/3 of the time it takes to do low high.
Okay.
And
On
the
1718.
Yeah, 70. And the reason of it is your 7018. You're in the puddle, and you're not supposed to fluctuate. I call it jerk rod.
Okay.
This is jerk rod, you know.
Okay.
You know,
yeah.
what do you call it?
Okay, so you're not supposed to like
Yeah.
weave or
Yeah.
oscillate. I see what you're saying.
60-10, 60-11 is you have to go out of your puddle for cooling. A quick, they call it wetness. You wet your puddle and you go out wet and dry, wet and dry, wet and dry, wet and dry. And you know, like if you use it, you'll see how fast that puddle cools, comes out solid. You're not supposed to go over half of the rod width out of the puddle. I do.
Okay.
You know, and everybody else does too, because you're putting on so much. If you stayed in a puddle, if you was welding a vertical, it'd drool on you.
Okay.
So then to run the wires pass over it, if it drools on you, need to cut that drool off to where it's pretty flat, you see. And then you...
So you got to move fast enough that that puddle's not building up that it's going to slough off
Right,
on you. Okay,
right,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now 60-13, which is still a 60,000 pound rod, the flux will help. You have to run a little bit cooler than you normally do, but your flux will help keep your puddle there.
Okay.
You know. It takes a good welder to be able to run 70-18 flat, vertical, and not have to go change your machine every time, because you need that 5 amps. Sometimes you don't need that 5 amps. Sometimes you need it 5 amps. But he can control that to where you don't have to go back to, like I said, sometimes we're 500 feet away from our machine. And that takes a lot of time, you know, that you're running up and you run this, run up, and you know, you can't do that. So you have to learn how to do it your rod. With a 60-11 rod, there's no problem.
Okay.
You see, just up, down, whatever, not down. You don't run vertical down.
Okay.
You know.
So when you're saying learn how to do that, you're adjusting that with your travel speed and your arc distance.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How close you hold it, or how far you go out of the puddle. You see to do it. I don't know. It might hurt the weld. It might not be well, it's definitely going to be stronger than a 36,000 pound mild steel.
Okay.
Because it's a 60,000 pound rod. You see.
Okay.
So the other thing, if you're working out on a barge, and you got a machine, and you're doing the 1/8 70-18.
Okay.
And you need how am I going to say? You want to go to a vertical or something, and you want to run, you go to a 532 on the 60-11.
So is that a smaller or larger rod?
Well, that's bigger.
That's bigger. Okay.
That's a size bigger. You
okay.
see.
So that you have the same amount of heat, more rod, so it's going to weld cooler.
So it cools it off.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you don't have to run back that 500 feet to turn your machine
that
down
makes
5
sense.
or
So
10.
you just keep a little variety in
yeah,
your pail.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
The good guys don't need to do that.
Okay.
They'll work with that. You know, it's just like pointing the rod a different direction. The hardest thing is to come, if you've got a corner like this,
okay,
is to come out of that corner, to get it hot enough that you're going to burn up, and then come up. Once you get up to where you can turn your rod up, point it uphill a little bit, then you can control the heat with the rod.
The angle of the rod.
Just up, yeah.
But right here, you can't get that angle down.
Yeah, you can't do it because you're bottom of the barge. You know, you have to cut a hole in the barge to get there. I'll show you that on a vertical. Okay. See, this is okay. That's it. Let's put 2 of them up here. Okay. You see it? You see the flux breaking away?
Okay, yeah.
A new rod right out of the store wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just...
And that's 60...
That's 60-11.
60-11, okay.
Don't ask me what brand, because most times 60-11 is white, but it's got a brown flux. It might be a Hobart rod.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is the 70-10. It's a low high, but no, it's 70-18. Okay. See, it's not really going in.
It's just kind of staying on
It's
the
not.
top
It's
there.
not penetrating. It's all on the outside. See, it needs to be. It needs to be hotter to do the 69.
That looks like a larger rod too.
Huh?
Is that a larger rod also?
No,
No?
it's 1/8.
Okay.
It's just the flex that's on it. It's the iron power flex. The 6011, none of the flex, or a very low percentage of flex goes into your weld.
Okay.
When you go to the 7018, it's iron powder, and part of the flex becomes part of the metal.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. I did not know.
As far as a teacher, I'm a poor teacher, and the reason why, if you learned all this stuff, and some of it you learned the hard way, and you just take it for granted.
Okay.
It's just something you do. So you just forget about it. Well, when you start telling somebody about it, until you really start doing it, you don't remember what it was because it was such a habit to you over the years. You know?
I'm the same way. Like,
pardon?
I'm the same way. It's really hard to like break down what you're actually doing when you. I mean, when you're doing it, it's just kind of second nature at some point.
It's just what?
It's just kind of second nature at some point.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like physically break down what the steps are.
Yeah, what it is. That's what I say. Until you start doing it, you just forget about it.
Yeah.
Until you start doing it again, you see what you're doing that probably a young guy or some guy you're teaching doesn't really know, you see. That's why when the guys down there, they just take a test, I helped them a lot, but you could tell what they had and what they didn't have if it was a young guy. And a lot of times it's just say, I'm going to hold your hand, I'm going to guide you. Just relax, let me guide you, you know. That's what Seraphim did to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never run a decent vertical in my life. I went down there, we had 60-13 then. It wasn't 60-11. He used 60-13, 70-16, which is a low-high, non-iron powder, and 70-24, which I'll get in that one box. I'll show you what that's like. But, you know, I'm going to get your hand. You know, he's making, it was a box, a steel box, about 3/8 plate, 5/16 3/8 plate. It's probably about 2x2, 3x30 by 30. Started in, he said, I'm going to hold your hand. He said, just relax. I had it. Yeah.
No, that would make the difference.
No, that is not a pretty wash pass.
Okay.
You know, and probably a lot of it is because of the rod, the flex on the rod.
As far as it being old.
Yeah. Now this is going to be. This is going back to 60-11. Yeah, you see it starting to drool on me? See how hot it is?
The flux is breaking off
and
too.
The flux isn't.
I can watch it breaking off.
You don't, when you're running a wash past 60-11, you don't have to oscillate.
Okay.
But you remember what I told you about how I got my job at Seraphim? We had 1 1/4 inch rebar.
Okay.
And we welded them. We was making some deals for the sawmill at Columbia City. But we had this probably about a 15-inch channel iron, and we was welding these things, the rebar, to hold in the concrete. These things are going to be set up in concrete put in. And that rebar was 1 1/4 inch. We was using 532, 60-13. There was myself and 2 other boys who did that job. And I was getting penetration. 60-13 is not a high penetrating rod, but I was getting penetrated to where there probably wasn't that much of the center of that 1 1/4 rod. I just welding around them, you see. About that much of that rod
that wasn't welded?
That wasn't penetrated, you see. And that's how I got my job. The other boys couldn't do it. I could do it. Now, whether they wanted to or not, they both went to work someplace else for more money than what I was making. But I was doing something I wanted to do. I'm not sure they were doing something. Neither one of them became welders, or you know, as a profession. You see. Did you get all that?
Yep.
Did you get to see that? Oh, you see it in the film?
Yeah.
Could you see what I was doing over there?
I can see from this one.
Oh, okay. Now, that's...
Sorry.
That's a good looking vertical.
Okay.
That's a single pass. This MG rod,
Okay.
Cooper's has got it down, or Napa's got it down there. It's one of the better rods on the market. I can't go ahead and buy them because I cussed them out the last time I was in there, so I can't go back and buy any more of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For what?
The starter on my AC tractor.
Yeah.
The Bendix went bad on it.
Yeah.
So I went in and told them I wanted big. Well, I didn't have one. Well, they brought out a catalog in this company up Seattle area making a Bendix for it. So they got a Bendix down, and I didn't think it was just right. But anyways, I put it on the starter, and I started to stick starter back in. And I can't remember what it was, but I tell the gear wasn't. You know, I told them what AC tractor, the model number of the AC tractor, the number of the AC, and it wasn't right. It wasn't the right size.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the Bendix was. I didn't know it was coming out of Seattle.
Okay.
The Bendix part I think was $35.
Yeah.
And there was $15 shipping.
Okay.
You know. Well, I didn't. I took it back to them, and I said, "It isn't right." You know, I said, "Here's the starter, the gear, you see," and the spring was real light.
Okay.
You know what the Bendix spring is?
To engage the.
Well, but it engages it, but it's pulling the motor. Actually, the spring it's a flat.
Oh, okay.
And it's pulling the motor.
I guess I'm not familiar with that.
Ford had them.
Okay.
A lot of the starters now Ford makes is, you know, they just have that gizmo that kicks into gear.
Yes.
When it kicks in gear, it makes contact, starts turning.
Yep.
Well, it used to be a Bendix. You just put power to the motor, and it spun it, and it shoved it into the.
Yeah, like centrifugal kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It shoved it in, made gear, and when it started, the engine the engine kicked it back out of gear. So I took it back. This isn't right. So he says, we can send your old one in. And I said, no.
I said,
that's the only thing I got to prove what I have. I said, I've done this before and I haven't got back my part before I have my sample, what I need. Well, okay. So I said, well, he's going to charge me for that. We'll send it and get another one. He'll charge me for that. That sent it back $15. I called them bastards. This is why you shouldn't start in a corner like that.
Okay.
No. Watch. See how it's going around? It don't want to make pedal. And by the time it makes a pedal, you got so much stuff in there. Now I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's not even. It didn't even adhere to the bottom.
Yes, I can see
on the bottom.
there.
That's why you shouldn't try to start in a corner like that. As far as the machine, you know.
So it seemed like
it'll take a better man than me to play around with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'd put it in one spot where it works good and I'd leave it there.
Well, and I mean, that kind of goes to show, like, what I try to explain a lot of times is you get your base setting set, and then you as the human adjust for it with your travel speed and your, I mean, I'm no professional with this, but it seems to be what you're saying, similar to with the stick or the TIG welding.
Yeah, you say professional. I look at professionals as basketball players, baseball players, football players. You know, I was just a common worker. I might have been a professional welder. I never thought about being a professional. Yeah, it was my profession, but I never thought about it as being a professional welder, you see.
Yeah, but that's just one of those things you talked about. You do it, but you didn't think about it. Doesn't mean it wasn't so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would consider 40 years of an experience a professional.
Yeah. And you know, it was always an experience.
I imagine.
You know what I'm saying? There was never, you know, you think, oh, this is cut and dried. Well, it might be cut, well, it wasn't dried until you got through this. You know, there was always You know, for 41 years I welded. I don't think I ever had anything down pat. I was always still learning, you know. And,
fair enough. I hope I never stop learning.
Pardon?
I hope I never stop learning.
Yeah, right. Well, oh yeah, you will when they plant you.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's the way I was. I never thought I knew everything, because once you think you know everything, and then when something new comes along, you see like a new welder like that, all that stuff on it. You know. But yeah, you know, it's what's really something is they put so much into a small box.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's better, but it's darn sure easier to handle.
Oh, as far as managed, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, I mean, even like, I prefer something like this personally. This is just kind of my bias, but I prefer so there's a lot of knobs there, but each knob only does one thing.
I know, but there's a lot of knobs that adjust different ways.
That's true, but each knob only does one thing. This knob does everything.
That's confusing. That's confusing. Listen, you know, like with this, what I see the two welders, I'd pick this welder over this. Now,
I would almost tend to agree with you.
Maybe with modern technology, but how many people come along like you and I that's going to learn all this, learn what all this could do on a table with this sitting right along so we can turn it. You know, to me, this would be the main button.
Yep.
Because that's why I've always welded, you see. Now, one thing I would say, if I had high frequency, yes, especially with 7018 or any low high rod, that high frequency is, you know. And to me, the dial like that with a button that switch a high frequency on.
Okay.
And I'll do the rest of it with.
So you'd have your amperage knob and a button to switch your high frequency on, and that'd be it.
Yes.
I would tend to agree.
That's just me. And a lot of cases, because, you know, like when I was working at Seraphin's, you know, they had the table here, corner of the table set against the wall. Right back over here was a welder, you know, you could reach it. So you play, I won't say I played with the knob a lot. I did play with it because, you know, you're in production, so the main thing is to get the job done, get it done just as fast as you can get it done, and be good about it. So you basically, it was still just the dial and the high frequency, or maybe from AC to DC.
Okay.
You see, you had a lever down here.
So what'd you say this was again?
Huh?
What'd you say this was again?
This is 7024.
Okay. And so what's the
when it first came out, Airco, it was called Jet Rod.
Okay.
It didn't have a number on it.
Oh, really?
And it was while I was working at Seraphin's, they made a standard, everything had a number on it, and that's where the 24 came from.
Okay.
Because when we first started buying it, it was Airco rod, and it was called like 1/8 jet, 532 jet.
Okay.
I don't even know if that'll be enough. I'm going to try it here, because I'll put this in. Pretty close.
That was 180 amps.
Huh?
180 amps. Oops, sorry.
You wear gloves with this. It's got a lot of little splatter. Are you ready?
Yep.
I'm a little bit hot.
Looks like it burned in real nice, though.
Pardon?
That looked like it burned in pretty good.
It did. It was a little bit hot. Look at that.
Can't see with the light. That's beautiful.
Are you ready?
Yep.
This is one rod you have to watch.
Okay.
And what it is, if your puddle is on one side or the other, this rod you can make a weld like that. It looks beautiful, and one side's not even welded to this side here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it basically is probably because it's too cold. You didn't have enough heat.
Looks pretty clean to me.
Okay, now we're getting down to the point where we have to watch it to make sure that it's staying behind us. Now you watch. See it coming up in front of me?
Oh, yep.
And when it comes up in front of you like that, you can't be sure. You cannot be sure that you're getting a good weld out of it.
Because that flux is going to contaminate when it comes around the front.
See how when I turned it up on the end, see how it spread out and started making a wider bead when I turned it up on the end like that.
There we go.
That's pretty.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
I'm steadier than what I thought I was.
Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot doing that. It was kind of a little bit all over the place, but that's always the fun part to me, is hanging out with Grandpa and just listening to those stories that are spurred from what's happening in the moment. So I really enjoyed this time. Let me know in the comments, is this something you guys want to see more of? I've had this idea of showing Grandpa other people's welding videos and then just getting his comments and feedback as we watch them. And we were watching some the other day and he was just given all these good little nuggets of these tips and tricks that were coming to his mind as he was watching somebody else's video. So if that's something you guys think you would like to see, let me know in the comments. If you want to get notified of upcoming videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can get notifications when the next videos pop up. Once again, thanks for watching, and go build something, guys.